Huawei have just announced their latest flagship, the P30 Pro. How does it compare to Apple's flagship, the iPhone XS Max? Well, let's break down all of the key differences SuperSaf style. So initially starting off with the build and design, both of these are very premium. The iPhone XS Max has a stainless steel frame with glass panels on the front and back. The P30 Pro has an aluminium frame with curved glass panels on the front and back. Now, because of these curved panels, it does feel a little bit more comfortable to hold, and it's not as wide compared to the iPhone XS Max. Both devices do have IP68 water and dust resistance, which is great. And the P30 Pro also has a few more color options available compared to the XS Max. The XS Max just comes in 3 color options, whereas the P30 Pro comes with 5 color options, and the color options are also quite striking. You've got Huawei's gradient finish on some of these colors, which do look very good. Now, of course, colors are subjective, so it's going to come down to your personal preference, but you do get more options here on the P30 Pro. Now, for display sizes, both are very similar, and you've got OLED technology on both as well, which is great. But you do have a much smaller notch on the P30 Pro compared to the wider notch on the XS Max. So you are getting a slightly better screen to body ratio on the P30 Pro. However, the iPhone XS Max does have a slightly higher resolution, so details are going to be a little bit sharper. And you've also got 3D touch. This is where you can push down harder on certain items to get more options and things. This is something that you don't have on the P30 Pro. Now, internally, both of these have some very powerful chipsets. You've got the Kirin 980 on the P30 Pro, and on the iPhone XS Max, you've got Apple's A12 Bionic chip. Both of these are very fast and snappy. You do have more RAM. You've got 8 GB of RAM on the P30 Pro versus 4 GB of RAM on the iPhone XS Max. Now, speed and performance, I think both are going to be absolutely fine. We'd have to do a detailed speed test between these two to find out specific differences, but we're also running different software. We've got iOS 12 on the iPhone XS Max, and we've got Android with the EMUI 9.1 skin on the P30 Pro. Now, of course, we've got Android versus iOS here, and I'm not going to go into a battle. A lot of it is going to come down to your personal preference. And when it comes to storage, the P30 Pro does get an advantage, and that's because the base model does have double the amount of storage compared to that on the iPhone XS Max. And you also do have the option of expanding storage on the P30 Pro, something that you don't have on the XS Max. Now, this is a nano SD card. It's not the standard micro SD card that you can pick up from everywhere, so just do bear that in mind. But you do have the option of expanding storage, which is always nice. Now let's talk about the cameras. So with the iPhone XS Max, you've got a dual 12 megapixel camera setup. One is a primary camera with an f1.8 aperture, and then you've got a secondary camera, which is going to give you 2 times optical zoom. In my experience, it's been a very good and reliable camera so far, although I do think it can improve in low light. With the P30 Pro, there has been a big concentration on low light, and that is because the primary camera firstly has 40 megapixels, although when you're shooting, it's generally going to be at 10 megapixels to make the most out of that sensor. And that sensor is not a traditional RGB sensor. It's actually red, yellow, and blue. And this is going to be able to absorb more light. You've got a super wide f1.6 aperture, and on top of that, you've got ISO sensitivity of up to 400,000. And initial impressions are very positive. Huawei has definitely been doing really well in the low light game, but that's just the primary camera. You actually have 4 cameras on the P30 Pro. The secondary camera is an ultra wide camera. You guys know that I'm a big fan of ultra wide cameras. You can get so much more into your shot, and that's at 20 megapixels. Then you have a zoom camera. Now, this zoom camera is not your regular 2 times. It actually uses some prism technology, which is amazing because it gives you 5 times optical zoom and up to 10 times hybrid zoom. Now, I have to tell you that in terms of zoom on a camera, this has been the most impressive that I've seen. It does seem to work very well. And in comparison to the 2 times optical zoom on the iPhone XS Max, you're going to be getting much more zoom on the P30 Pro. And then there's the 4th camera, and this is a time of flight camera. So this is going to measure depth information and should help with your portrait shot. So in terms of camera hardware itself, you are getting a lot more on the P30 Pro. But of course, we are going to have to put the results side by side, SuperSaf style. And if you want to see that SuperSaf style camera comparison, definitely let me know in the comments below. Now, in terms of the front-facing cameras, you've got 7 megapixels on the iPhone XS Max. On the Huawei P30 Pro, you've got 32 megapixels. So they already had 24 in previous devices. Now they've gone to 32. Of course, we know it's not all about megapixels. And I do find that generally on Huawei phones, there does seem to be a bit of a beauty filter. I'm going to have to spend more time with these to test them out. For security, the iPhone XS Max does have Face ID. It's very secure, very fast, and very reliable. Now, with the Mate 20 Pro that we had previously from Huawei, that also did have a 3D facial recognition system. This is not here on the P30 Pro, but we do have an optical fingerprint scanner within the display, and it does seem to be pretty fast and it does seem to work pretty well. Now, which one of these methods is better for you is going to come down to your personal preference. Now, when it comes to audio, neither of these come with a 3.5mm jack, unfortunately, so you are going to have to use either wireless earbuds or you're going to have to use some sort of converter. And the iPhone XS Max does have stereo speakers, so you've got one in the earpiece and one bottom firing, so when you're watching media and things, they do sound really, really good. The P30 Pro has a single bottom firing speaker and you don't actually have an earpiece, so you're not going to be getting stereo sound when you're consuming media. But when you're making calls, it's actually going to vibrate the display to give you more isolated sound compared to a traditional earpiece. So it is going to give you a little bit more privacy when you are on the phone on the P30 Pro. Now for batteries, the P30 Pro does get the advantage here, and that's because you've got a much larger 4200 mAh battery. You are going to be working with less pixels as well on the P30 Pro, and Huawei's battery management software does do a really good job in my experience with previous Huawei devices to give you really, really good battery life. Both devices also support fast charging. However, the iPhone XS Max does not come with the fast charger out of the box. This is something that you're going to have to buy separately. The P30 Pro, not only do you get a fast charger out of the box, it's actually Huawei's 40-watt supercharger. Now this can give you up to a 70% charge in just 30 minutes. Now in practice, it'll probably give you around 60 to 70%, but that's still very, very good and much faster compared to the iPhone XS Max. Now both devices also do support wireless charging, but the P30 Pro supports faster 15-watt wireless charging, and you've also got reverse wireless charging. This is something that you don't have on the iPhone XS Max. This is where you can use your P30 Pro to charge another device, potentially as well, the iPhone XS Max, wirelessly. And the speed of this hasn't been confirmed yet. I do have to spend some more time testing this out. It wasn't so fast on the Mate 20 Pro. I hope it's a little bit faster on the P30 Pro. Finally, looking at the pricing, the iPhone XS Max does come in quite a bit higher compared to the P30 Pro, and you're also getting half the storage for that higher price, 64 versus the base model of 128 gigabytes on the P30 Pro. So definitely something to bear in mind. You are going to be paying that additional pricing for the Apple ecosystem. Now the P30 Pro is also not going to be available in the US, and that is because Huawei are still having issues with the US government in terms of selling those devices. So if you are based in the US, you might have to get it imported. So there we have it, guys. That is the Huawei P30 Pro versus the iPhone XS Max. Which one of these would you go for if you were given the choice? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts, and also let me know which other comparisons you'd like me to do with the P30 Pro. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. If you want to see lots more content like this and lots more coverage with the P30 Pro, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.